What's going on, everybody? Hopefully, technical issues non-abounding. We're going to be starting this podcast here, talking about our most anticipated games of 2020. With me today, I've got a couple of folks here who say that they're experts. We'll see about that. I appreciate everybody coming in and supporting the podcast as usual. Um, so yeah, we'll just kind of get on into it. And if you guys have any sort of suggestions for what we should like add to our lists or what we should be looking out for this year, let us know. We're really excited to kind of get the whole spectrum of different games because I'm sure a lot of us have similar games that we're looking forward to, but we'd love to hear some of your like super out there, like never heard before niche games as well. So be sure to shout those out. Let me join the Discord here. Hello, everybody.
I love how you said, I think these guys are experts, but I'm not sure about that. Anyways.
You're not supposed to hear the spiel.
I don't care, I'm interested.
No, you guys are experts. You guys are experts in your own fields, I'm sure. At least that was what was said on your resume. But anyway,
Okay.
Who are you people?
Jim, I'll let you go first.
Okay. I'm Jim Bubble, otherwise referred to as Jamie. I'm just a shitposter, if I'm perfectly honest.
I'm AJ, also known as USAG Viper. I'm primarily a FPS gamer and Twitch streamer.
Awesome. So, we'll just kind of go round table and go on about whatever games we want to talk about for 2020. There are plenty of them to talk about, I'm sure. AJ, if you want to start with your most anticipated game of 2020.
Oh, I hate you. Why do you have to start with me?
Because you're at the top now.
Fine. So, I mean, I guess my most anticipated, I hate being, I hate being first. Okay, let's just start off with, Doom Eternal. So, the reason I'm most anticipated for this one is, so it continues where Doom 2016 had left off, but now, apparently, the Doom guy has to clear a hell invasion of Earth. And I've seen a lot about the story, on YouTube and whatnot. It looks phenomenal, and it's added so much on top of what 2016 had brought us originally, and just blew the doors open for so many more things. I'll give you guys a few more examples. With the upgrades, they added so much more to mod yourself and the weapons that you have, making yourself basically a giant killing machine. Not only that, the runes that were in 2016 have been changed, which they're also upgrades as well. And they're... I really can't say a lot, but it looks like a phenomenal game, and it's one of the top games that I'm excited for.
Yeah, for sure. That is like at the top of my list right now, especially it being coming out like in March. That's like the beginning of the year for me. That's going to be like probably what I'm playing for the first half of this year.
And no delays.
Don't speak too soon because 2020 has been the year of delays so far.
Rip Final Fantasy and
Rip literally everything. Cyberpunk and shit, what else?
Yeah.
There's been so many things. There's so many things that
Animal
we also
Crossing
just don't
got
even
delayed.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really curious to see. I think this week a lot of people were releasing gameplay of their sort of like early gameplay footage of Doom Eternal, and I was super excited to see it because I was like, oh man, like we know what Doom is like, obviously from the 2016. Oh hey Tom, by the way.
Where did you come from?
Sorry, I ran late.
Tom likes to make a very special appearance.
He's a slippery snake.
But yeah, we're talking about Doom Eternal and how that's so far like me and AJ's like top most anticipated game for this year because for one thing, we already know Doom 2016 was like amazing. Giving us more of that is already very exciting because something about Doom is just very fluid and cathartic and bloody and awesome. And on top of that, this is supposed to be what they're telling us, like 200 times as more chaotic. Like, I can't even imagine that being possible, but they're saying that, like, if Doom was like rock music, this is like metal music. And I'm like, hey,
It's
okay.
always been metal music. What do you mean?
No, they're saying this is like amped up fucking Doom on crack. That's what they're saying. And I'm like, you
Oh,
are
they're going
selling
like full on
me.
Spinal Tap.
Yeah, right? Like it's like I'm like, okay. And plus on top of that, like I haven't really seen a whole lot of the nitty-gritty when it comes to like runes and upgrades and things like that.
Yeah.
I've mostly been focusing on like how does it play? And from what I can see, like it's very mobile looking, which kind of
Yeah.
surprised me. A lot of like floating platform situations going on, a lot of like spinning whatever crap
Well,
going on.
there's a lot of like parkour and stuff in it.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly. Like air parkour, like you having to like use your little jetpacks to kind of scoot around everywhere, which wasn't
yeah.
really, I don't think, a part of the first game. So that's kind of interesting
Oh
to
no.
me.
I mean, you did have the jump dash, but that's about it. You didn't have
Right.
like a huge double jump, this, that, and the other thing. And better yet, they're bringing back Mick Gordon for the OST, which his music is phenomenal. He did Killer Instincts, like the remake, of course. He did
Right.
the OST for that, and he did the OST for original Doom 2016. Oh my god, he's a phenomenal legend when it comes to music making.
For sure. Yeah, and the soundtracks have always been like super good too. So I am totally about that. It's one of the few game soundtracks I would actually like listen to in my own time. I'm not one of those people that like pops open some Final Fantasy music or something. That's just not me, but the Doom music is so fucking good. It just gets you amped, dude. And like it just fits with the atmosphere and whatnot. There's just I don't know, something about that game just really speaks to me. So having more of it I am super excited about,
Yeah.
and that's supposed to come in March. So that's one
Yeah.
of like beginning our 2020 year here with a really good game, I think, like starting it off right.
Hmm.
Did anyone else have any other comments about Doom Eternal, or like if you're excited about it at all, if you don't even know anything about it? That's fine. All right.
No? Okay.
Jimbo, what's your most
I've literally
anticipated?
only ever played like the very first game.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, if you're like a classic Doom person, it's kind of like not at all really the same, other than I guess the theme and the character and whatnot.
Mm.
But I would definitely
Yeah, I've
recommend it
only
if
done
you
the
can.
classic Doom myself.
Yeah, exactly. Like I played a little bit of that when I was like a kid, and obviously like my dad, that was sort of his thing when he was younger. But like, yeah, it being like an FPS fan, I this was already kind of up my alley in the first place. But the graphics of it are like beautiful. Even the 2016 version holds up
Oh my
still pretty
god.
well. And like I said, the soundtrack it was by itself like pretty freaking epic. So I would
Yeah.
recommend checking it out if you haven't, because I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot of like story overlap. If there is, I don't think it's gonna be like game breaking. So if someone did hop into
No.
Eternal without playing the first one, it's fine. I don't think that's a
I
big
mean,
deal.
there's a lot of story to Doom 1, so I can definitely see there being some little bit of overlap if you don't know what's going on.
A little bit. It's never been like deep into the lore or whatever. Like you know what I mean? Like it's like it's
Yeah.
Doom. You're shooting demons and aliens and whatever the crap. You know what I mean? Like
Doomguy literally throws like the story part of the game to the side right at the beginning.
Yeah.
for the most part, yeah. Like I couldn't even tell you exactly what was happening in the first one, other than just like some evil
Oh,
scientist people were
I mean,
trying to open up a gate to hell or whatever, and obviously they succeeded.
I can tell you, but I mean, I wouldn't want to if you haven't played it. But if you just want the entire spiel, I can give that as well.
Which I mean, it's been 4 years, so it's like at this
Yeah.
point, like, but it's not one of those where like, oh, you're gonna ruin the whole thing for me. Like, no, like Doom is Doom. You're gonna have a fun time whether the story has been ruined for you or not. But if you can find
yeah.
it like cheap or find it on like a Game Pass situation or something, I recommend picking up the first one and at least getting like a feel for it before you hop into this one. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how fun it is.
And yeah, with Doom Eternal, it is very story intensive now because based on what I had seen from, I'll say one YouTuber in specific, the Russian Badger, he was like, I couldn't get a lot because they only gave me a 3-hour time frame to play the game, an hour to record, and 10 minutes to actually edit it and have a decent amount ready for it. So he
Jeez.
didn't have a lot.
No, not enough time at all. I'd be like, edit in 10 minutes?
No, like he had to have a video 10 minutes long with everything.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? Edit in 10 minutes?
Yeah, no, he had to have every
Oh, I see.
bit that he needed in 10 minutes, or he couldn't get it all. So it was like at the very end where he started showing a little bit of the story, but it wasn't enough time, so he basically showed like little bits of cutscene. But he was like, "Yeah, it's very story intensive now."
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a really good like idea for people who are a little more story oriented. I've never really been that sort of person. I just like to shoot the
Yeah.
things, but it's a good balance between like people who do want more of like the story driven game versus people who just want to shoot some shit. That
Of course.
that sounds like a great balance to me. Like I will take it or leave story, but I'm glad that they're at least trying to make it some semi cohesive and coherent because the idea of it's kind of so like out there crazy that it's just like uh trying to make it like make sense is a good idea instead of just being like yeah it's just like a freaking like arcadey shoot 'em up whatever thing. They're trying I think instead
Oh,
of just like past dooms where it's just kind of like shoot all the shit and don't worry about the rest.
I mean, okay, and by the way, for those who want it for PC, on Steam, it's currently on sale, 70% off for $6.
Oh hell yeah, pick it
Um,
up.
if you have Xbox, it's currently free on Game Pass if you have it, and PlayStation, well, you're shit out of luck because I have no clue about it. And it's also on Switch, but it's quite expensive.
Right, and probably not the best way to
And
play it, in my
definitely
opinion.
not the best way to play it.
Definitely, if you're gonna play it
Probably
on
not.
something that can really showcase the graphics, because I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, and with the original Doom, headed back to it, not like the original, but I'm talking 2016 original. Um, there was a lot of like collectibles and everything, so it's like you didn't like just run through it to get 100%. No, it was like there was a lot of different things that you can do to get upgrades and everything. So
Yeah, and there was a lot of even like secrets that I wasn't even able to
oh
really
yeah, like
find, like just casually running through the story and whatnot, the campaign.
yeah,
There was maybe one that I was like, okay, this is obviously like a secret area, but everything else was pretty hidden up. Like you kind of had to explore a little bit, and I love
yeah.
that in games where it allows you to kind of run around and look at these like hidden corners that you wouldn't normally look into. Um, so yeah, there's a lot there for everybody. I feel like even if you're
Yeah.
not really into shooting, the shooting itself is just satisfying. And from what I've seen of like this new game, it looks like it's going to be the same exact way, and I'm super excited. Just super excited just to have more. I just want more of it. As soon as I ended it, I was like, I just want to keep running in there and
I
shooting
wanna
people's
keep
faces
playing.
off. But yeah, Jimbo, what is your most anticipated?
I'm sorry, you lagged out a bit for me. I'm going to assume you
What's
asked
your
what
most
my favorite.
anticipated game?
Ah, yeah, I was assuming that's what it was.
Yes.
My most anticipated game is Dreams.
Ooh, okay. I made a list for myself just to kind of keep myself on track here, and I actually put that as like number 7-ish on my list of 10, 11 items. Because
Jeez,
for the
this-
most part, oh yeah, I'm insane. But I mostly just want to make sure I know what's like coming out this year. But that has kind of been shunted down only because I don't know enough about it, but I only have just heard about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'm going to quickly explain what it is. Dreams is pretty much someone's gone to the Little Big Planet, taken like the moon part of it where you make your own levels, and just amped it up. It's now full 3D. There's modeling in there as well. It's pretty much just that as its own game.
Yeah. Yeah, and like
And-
coming off of things like Super Mario Maker and stuff like that, it's like I really like the idea of people being able to make their own like levels and things like that.
Yeah.
especially if it's like really easy to just like pop in a code or something like that and just go hop into someone's level. I'm imagining that, you know, people who are really good at that sort of thing, like level making and whatnot. I mean, just looking at like Mario Maker, I'm like amazed at what people can come up with. I can only
Yeah.
imagine what people can come up with having these tools at their disposal and being able to
I
like
mean,
import your own assets and stuff.
yeah, I mean, in Dreams, they've already had the beta out where they're improving things or see some like unbelievable stuff out. Like
Yeah.
literally just before the stream started, they were holding the Imps, which was awards for Dreams. I'm gonna have to look back through that later, but one of the creators I know of is Bibson, who's done a lot of really, really impressive animations and music out of it.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see that. I mean, the possibilities of it are kind of endless. I think I saw somebody like remade PT, one of the games that like you can't even like get anymore, but it's one of those like cult classic horror games that people talk about all the
Yeah,
time, and it's like you could literally like recreate anything. Now, it does raise the question of like, how's copyright going to come into this, really? Because obviously someone still owns that property, even though it's not like out and about anymore. But it just
yeah.
depends, like who does that come down to? Can they like not necessarily sue? I'm sure it's not really like a suing situation, but more just like,
It's
hey,
going to be
this
like,
person made a level that looks like my game. Take that shit down, kind of thing. You know, like how does that
yeah.
come down?
Um, that was also an issue in Little Big Planet actually, but it was only with the levels themselves and the very popular ones. So it was just like, oh, that's copyrighted. We can't have that here, otherwise we're gonna get in trouble.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure PlayStation doesn't want to be like on the wire for stuff like this. Like
Well,
it's going to come down to like the creators and having to be like responsible for what you're
yeah,
making and stuff. Otherwise, you're probably going to get your level taken down or worse, you're going to be kicked out of the game or something. I don't know. Like I don't even know how that works considering if you buy the game, can they really like kick you out? But someone
yeah,
has to be at fault if they're like making things that are
yeah.
copyrighted or someone else's property or whatever, you know, intellectual property. Because it's like when you give people the tools to make anything, it's fantastic, and people are gonna use that and like make really badass, awesome things, like unique, interesting things. But at the same time, you know they're gonna make stuff that exists, and they're gonna make it like,
Mm.
you know, like I said, PT is not even available probably for, you know, whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe it's a good
It's
reason.
because
I don't know. But
it was a teaser for a game that's now been cancelled.
yeah, and it's like, you know, as much as it's great that someone can like play it now through something like Dreams, at the same time it's like, okay, but like the people who own that probably feel like shit because if it was canceled or whatever, it's like, well, our work's never going to get out there, but now you're taking it over basically. Like it's kind of like
Yeah,
it sucks, but you know, it's like I don't know how those issues are going to be resolved with it. It's really I just can't wait to see like what people can actually come up with that's like
yeah.
is unique. Like that's what I want to see. And I can't wait for like the articles of like reviewers and stuff putting like codes like, oh, these are the best Dreams levels or whatever, and people are able to run through
There's
them.
Oh, that would be
there's
cool.
already loads and loads and loads of articles on the fact that someone has remade Metal Gear Solid in Dreams,
Oh my god.
Right. I mean,
and like
like, and even just
I don't know
looking
what's
at
gonna
like
happen
this
to that.
trailer like that they have, it's there's just so many like cool things that I'm seeing, like with unique stuff that like I'm sure the PlayStation people themselves have really made, but like who knows, there are people out there who like do this for a living, do this for a hobby, whatever, and being able to import your own like graphics and stuff in there, oh man, like possibilities are kind of endless. The other thing is kind of like, you know, like will there be a way to monetize your creations in Dreams or something to that effect? And I don't know if they've really answered that question. Um, because it's kind of like, you know, say someone makes a whole level or whatever, like if they don't get paid for it, like they're gonna have to make these things of their own free time and free will. And it's
Yeah,
like, you know, how many people are gonna take the time to do that? I don't know. People do it in Mario Maker all the time for free. They don't get anything from it, but at the same time, they're also using assets that are already provided for them. If you're like taking the time to make all your own assets and make your own game and such, it's like, Man, maybe there should be a way for them to get paid for that, you know?
Why don't you just make your
Yeah.
own game?
I mean, yeah, and that comes down to more like, you know, maybe they don't know how to code their own game. It takes like more than just like art to make something like that. Especially like
Yeah.
I've been on that side of it where it's like I've made art, but there's no way I know how to code a game myself. So having an engine already existing like this kind of makes sense for people like me who are more on the artistic side. But at the same time, it's like, you know, would I make stuff for free for it? Would I really take that time? I don't think so, personally. Some people may just see it as like a work of art that maybe lasts like 15 minutes and then it's like, oh, great, you know, it's there for free, whatever. People do that. But yeah, it just makes me wonder, like, how cool would it be, though, if you could, like, pay someone a couple bucks or something to play their level and, like, actually experience a full-fledged, like, experience for a couple bucks, you know? Really, it comes down to the possibilities are endless with this. But it's also
Yeah.
so, like, I don't know. The waters are a little muddied for me because I don't know what's gonna happen with it, but I'm really excited to see. That's supposedly coming in February, I believe,
Yes.
which is
February.
very soon, like right on our doorstep here. So I guess we won't have a whole lot of time to wonder about it, but I will probably look into it. The only other thing that kind of stinks about it is the fact that it is PlayStation exclusive. I,
Yeah.
you
The
know,
model is
it's
literally only PlayStation.
yeah. I feel like it would be so cool to have it for at least like PC. I understand not putting it on like Xbox or something, but something like this where you're like
Yeah.
making games and stuff, I feel like it would be so much more convenient to have like a PC port of that. And not
Yeah.
only that, but I already play most of my games on PC, so it's hard for me to yank that PlayStation back out and be like, all right, let's go load up Dreams. Because there's not a lot of games nowadays that I'm like, oh, this is exclusive. I have to play this on PlayStation. I'm going to keep my PlayStation out, whatever. You know, it's just like my PlayStation I haven't touched for months now. It's like, do I really want to like get it out just to play Dreams? I don't know yet. I need to be convinced, I think.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'm kind of not able to agree with that. Sorry, not agree. I must relate to that because I haven't got a good enough computer to run games. So most of my games are on the PlayStation, either that or my Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, I think that the Switch could be a good place for that because you can use the motion controls really accurately for some things.
True. Yeah, that would be interesting too. And I know PlayStation has never really opened a whole lot of doors for something like Nintendo, like a partnership, but I mean, yeah, like you know, I can also understand like having it on PlayStation I think is great because it does like there's so many different makers, quote unquote, on like PC RPG Maker, I think it's called or something like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
RPG Maker. There's literally just one called Game Maker.
Right, like there's like all these like random ones that you can make, and then obviously if you wanted to make a full-fledged game, there's things like, you know, Unity and stuff like that
Unity,
that you can open up
Unreal
into.
Engine.
So having something that powerful on a console is kind of like mind-blowing to me because I think it opens up a lot of people like you who may not be able to afford a PC, especially one that can like actually make games. You know, it's like that's pretty graphics intensive. So being able to do that off of a console is very interesting. And I think it's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. I just kind of also
Especially-
wish it was on PC.
Yeah, if it was on PC, you would be able. Of course, you would be able to import things into it. But like, I think a very large part of it with Dreams is that everything you need is already in there. Like, there's modeling stuff in there already.
Right. Yeah, and I wonder how the importing is gonna work. Like, can I just like plug a USB into it, or like, how does that happen? You know what I mean? Do I upload it from my computer into like the cloud or something? Like, so many unanswered
Yeah.
questions.
I do have a feeling they're going to try and get phones involved and try and revive the PlayStation Remote Play app. Because that's something they did with Tearaway. Like, to do a lot of specific things, you had to be connected with your phone.
I see. Yeah, yeah. I guess so. Yeah. That's the thing too. Is like I've used like remote play and stuff like that just to like stream games from my PlayStation instead of having to like hook it up to a capture card or whatever. But yeah, I don't feel like it's very like full like feature heavy or anything. It's just literally like I can play the games on my computer from my PlayStation. I think they'd have to like it's almost like they'd have to come up with like a whole different system to have like a PC to PS4 link or whatever. And who knows, maybe they do have that in the works for this thing, but it, I don't know. I'm not sure how that's gonna work. Xbox has always kind of been the PC pal, you know, because obviously
Yeah.
Microsoft makes both.
Fuck,
So
or even the new one looks like a PC.
yeah, and they're basically
yeah.
becoming PCs.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean,
like, you know, I could see that kind of communication happening, but PlayStation has never really like played nice with PC that much. They have the remote play thing, but even that, it's just like it's not super feature rich. Like I said, like it's not like anything special. It's just literally streaming it to it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's just gonna be straight PlayStation, and then if you want to import stuff, you're gonna have to find some sort of like, yeah, I don't know, USB something or other, maybe some sort of cloud, like a cloud system. I think would be the most convenient if you could just open
Yeah.
up like a PlayStation Cloud and drop assets into it, you know. So we'll see. Again, I haven't really like looked a whole lot into it. I've only just like heard about it and seen a couple of trailers and stuff. So a lot of those little details kind of elude me, but it's definitely interesting to me because I'm not like a maker sort of person, but I love playing like custom made levels and things from other people. I love to see what they come up with. And this isn't just like one IP like Mario Maker is where you know what to expect. This could be anything. You could open up any level and not know what to expect from it. It could be a PT, it could be a Metal Gear, it could be something completely new and different, and like who knows.
Some of them aren't even games. Like there's music and animation, like I mentioned earlier.
Right, yeah. And like music levels and stuff like that. Like it's just yeah, it's really really interesting. And I also wonder too like, you know, could someone create something in there almost like a test bed for their idea before going launching into like actual game making, just be like, "Hey, I've got this idea of like, you know, this concept, make it in dreams, see how well it performs, see get the feedback, and then be like, okay, now I'm gonna go take it to like a developer and actually make it," kind of thing, you know. That would be really interesting as well. But yeah, that's a good one. I like that one because it's one of those like hidden, I think, gems of this year that are gonna slowly materialize into something like epic for the years to come. I hope. I hope it expands and becomes really like lucrative for people because I think it's gonna be awesome. Tom, did you have an anticipated game that you wanted to talk about?
Number one on my list definitely is The Last of Us Part.
Nice. Yes. I am like super excited for other people for this because I never really played it myself. I just watched like other people play it, so I'm not like super into it, but at the same time like people I know people have been waiting for this forever. So I'm super excited that it's coming out. What
Yeah, I
about
was
it is
later
interesting?
getting into The Last of Us. I didn't play it originally because I didn't have a PS3. And when I got my PS4, looking for like, I bought it. I'm like, well, I gotta have a game to go with it, and scrolled through the games, and I saw The Last of Us remastered. So I'm like, oh yeah, I always wanted to try that out, and I played it. And to me, that first game, it was the best acting I had seen in the video game, especially at that time. Definitely get more like a good amount of cinematic video games now, like they're getting better. But the acting was so great, wonderful. The story I think was great. The gameplay is just such a beautiful game, and I loved it. And yeah, definitely looking forward to just continuing the story and the adventure. Joel and Ellie, and seeing how that goes.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that at least in the trailers it kind of seems like the focus is more on Ellie, which I like because I think it was more about like other characters and like other things going on in the first one, and the torch is like being kind of traded off to her in this one. You're kind of seeing like what it's like later on. What's his name? Joel, I think.
Joel, yeah.
Joel, yeah, like I mean, I'm assuming he's coming back. I think he maybe was dead, but maybe not. I'm trying to think back to when
No,
I was
no, no.
watching
Yeah,
it.
he's alive. Yeah, and
Just
I
seeing,
don't know how what's going to happen to him in
right.
part two, but he's going to at least be in the beginning. But yeah, it definitely seems like it's more Ellie's story, which also
Mm,
makes sense. Like I don't want to say about how the first game ended for anybody that hasn't actually experienced it yet, but it's at least for me one of the things I want to know too is like how Ellie's going to react to how The Last of Us one ended, because like she doesn't know her perspective, like everything that happened.
mm-hmm.
So like I'm interested to see like when she finds out, because I assume she will find out, what like some of the things Joel did in the first game.
Right. Yeah, and I wonder if it's like they say it's like part two or whatever. Like, I wonder if this is gonna be the end. If this is gonna be like the finale of these characters and like their story and whatnot. Now that you've gotten kind of like their beginning and then you get their end or whatever. If they're gonna continue this, because obviously it's very popular. But it's kind of like, how far do they really wanna go with these characters? It'll be interesting. Um, but yeah, I'm really glad that they're kind of focusing on LA too, because obviously, like being a female gamer myself, it's always kind of fun to see that sort of perspective, and have that be like one of the main characters or whatever that you play with. So I'm
Plus,
glad.
Ella was a damn cool character as well.
Yeah, and she seems like super badass in this one too. From what I've seen from the trailer, she seems awesome, and
As a
like
little child, she was badass in the first one.
yeah, she was just a cool character overall. So I'd love to see that. It's kind of like it's reminiscent of the Walking Dead Telltale series where they had Clem sort of take over from dude that I can't remember his name in the first one. It's almost like it's a very common story. I feel like in zombie games for some reason, like dude taking care of little kid and then kid having to step up and take care of themselves, kind of thing. So definitely a tried and true story, and I think people will be pleasantly like impressed with it. Like I can't see it being any like worse than the first one. I think if anything it's probably going to be better, I hope. And I
Well,
hope
that's
it
what. Yeah, to me, I kind of hold the first one in such a high regard that
mm,
I'm actually worried. Can the second one even live up to it? Like,
it's true.
it, yeah, it's like, can it even just be can equal? Because the first game almost felt so.
Right, yeah. I kind of wonder that too, like how is it going to hold up, because people really do like stand by that game. That's like one of their favorite games ever for some people, and it's just like how do you live up to that? That's got to be very a daunting task. Because when you get something like Doom Eternal versus Doom, it's like as long as you're giving me more of the same, like I'm going to be happy. And it's like but something to that degree, like storytelling wise and everything else, like production wise, you have to be able to meet that level, and I think it's going to be quite a task, but I also feel like they'll be just fine. Like was it
Yeah,
Naughty
at this
Dog? They're
level
pretty
of
damn good.
yeah, I say at this level of storytelling, it's no different than really like a movie franchise that to kind of go with what we were talking about last week. We really don't want it to be a.
Sorry, you cut out at the end there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I just said that like to play off of what we talked about on last week's podcast. I said I'd really not want this game to become a Last Jedi.
Yeah. Right, definitely. Like you want it. I mean, depending on where it's falling in the story, like if it is the end, like you want it to end, well. You want to finish the story like knowing that it's been it's been properly handled. But if
I
it's like a middle ground, if it's part two out of a three series, it's like who knows? Something big could totally happen that they have to resolve in a third one or something. It's like
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty much. I would give it a safe bet that there's going to be a third one because
really.
uh, depending on how even if this turns out to be a bad game, I think it's guaranteed to be just such a huge seller and I think Sony's going to want to keep it going just for the money reason. And
It's true.
I have a feeling, yeah, you get like at least a third one because you look again like Naughty Dog, they did with Nathan Drake like three Uncharted's. You had like the Lost Legacy to kind of add stuff in there, but generally it seems like trilogies do seem to be, you know, commonplace in terms of storytelling now. Like people just
Right.
in their head have it as like, oh, we're gonna make a trilogy for a story.
Yeah, and at that point it's kind of like, I hope that they're not dragging it out for money's sake either. It's like, if the second chapter, like, you know, feels like it's gonna be like super slow, just trying to drag out whatever it is that they're wanting to like finally end with. I don't know what it's gonna. I don't know what's gonna happen in this one, but it's kind of like, sometimes some things are just better left alone. I know that they kind of left the first one very open ended, so having a second one made sense, especially seeing Ellie sort of grown up and stuff like that. And it makes me wonder, like, how much further are they gonna try to push this? Do they need to push it? How many times can, like, Joel quote unquote die or whatever? It's just, it's like, how many times can something big happen that really punches you in the gut, sort of thing. um I guess in this one she looks like she's more of teenage age, so
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like 5 years later.
yeah. And
So she's gonna be like 18, 19.
yeah, that sounds about right. So it's like, if they, I guess, conceivably did make a third one, it could be her as like an adult, a 30-year-old or something, blah blah blah. Maybe. I don't know. But at the same time it's like, do we need this? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the reception is like for the second one, but I just hope that they don't drag it out just for money's sake, cuz that's just like bogus. They need to just tell the story they want to tell in however
Yeah.
long it takes, you know what I mean? I hope they have a plan, cuz just like dragging out longer and longer just because it's making money and because people like it and give it such a claim, sometimes you start watering down trying to make it last longer and it gets worse. So, but I trust them. I think Naughty Dog's a really good developer, so I think they'll be able to pull it out. I just hope that it's what people want. Yeah,
Same
that's a
here.
good pick. Yeah. I'll say, since AJ already kind of talked about Doom Eternal, I'll say my second one is probably Cyberpunk. I don't really know a whole lot about it other than the fact that it is made by the developers of The Witcher 3, which everyone freaking loves to death. Never played it, but I've like seen a lot of it, and just the depth of like all of the characters and storytelling and quests and world and whatever else, like that gets me excited for this. Even though I really don't feel like we know enough about it, it got pushed back into later in the year, which I found was interesting. But at the same time, like they kind of said, like they just want more time to polish it up, and I'm happy for that, because I think had this come out early and it just been like a hot mess, it really would have put a stain on what I think this game could be. Um, it kind of, the way that they've described it, it kind of sounds like a futuristic, like GTA sort of world where you run around, but then you can also make a lot of choices for your character that are gonna stick with you for the rest of your gameplay. I guess in that way, it might even be more of like a Fallout situation. Um, and you got like factions and things like that. You got Keanu Reeves running around with you, and I'm like, hey, baby, what's going on? All of that sounds great to me. It sounds like it's trying to be very ambitious with the way that you kind of choose your own destiny and stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure if it's like one character you're playing or if it's like a character you make. I haven't really, again, looked into it a whole lot. I'm hoping it's more like someone that you actually make yourself to run around in this world. They also said they're going to add like multiplayer much later, maybe next year, which is interesting. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be a sort of GTA system where you've got the open world and you can do the quests and stuff, but then you got a multiplayer version of that where you could see other people running around. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing, where if they do have a big open world and I can see other people running around and it's just like a dystopian, like crazy world or whatever, like that sounds amazing. But again, that might just be me projecting my own wishes upon it. I don't actually know if that's how it's gonna be, but I think it's promising. It looks really good, and like I said, the developers have a really good pedigree, so that's mostly why I've been excited about it. And I mean, they got like big actors and things like that in it too. You can tell they really put a lot of money and time into the production. So I'm mostly excited for that reason, and that reason only. But as for actually knowing anything about it, I don't think we've even really touched on the majority of what's going to be in that game. It's kind of like a whale, like a very a very like interesting, secretive, mysterious whale in the ocean that is just like we're about to catch it and be like, what the fuck. So yeah, and Joker brought up the fact that in Last of Us we are introducing a girlfriend and we could kill her. Which is what I was thinking, but I was also like, oh god, how awful. So yeah, maybe. It does look like we're introducing other characters into Last of Us, so there is more potential to just keep killing people off, I guess, and progress the story that way. But at the same time, it's like, do we really need to like keep killing people in order to spawn like more story? I don't know. But that is an interesting idea. It's like, why are you introducing this girl? You gonna rip her away from us at the very end? That'd be cruel. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else had any comments about Cyberpunk.
Not necessarily.
No. Yeah, like I said, I feel like I need to see more. Some people are kind of like, it's one of those games that's just been like overhyped to crap, even though I don't feel like we know hardly anything about it, and that scares me a little bit because it's like, it's great or whatever, but it's like, but is it gonna be? I don't know. It sounds like a lot of promise of being great. So we'll see if it lives up to the hype, though. Um, AJ, do you have another one that you'd like to talk about?
Uh, sure. I mean, one other game that I'm really excited for is a Steam VR title of Half-Life Alyx.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being, so it takes place between Half-Life 1 and 2. Do you mind if I like go into a little bit of detail?
No, yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say, if you're expecting to play Half-Life, I'll hold off on details.
No, yeah, I mean, those games are so old at this point, it's like,
Yeah,
you probably
the
should have
first
already
one-
played it if you were interested
The
in that.
first one came out in '96, and 2 came out in like 2004, 2005.
Yeah, I mean, they're
So,
pretty old, and I think it was like, it's
and
been
they're free
10
right
years
now,
or
so
longer than that, waiting for one of these
yeah,
to come out, so yeah.
yeah, they're free right now. So if you go on Steam, you can play them 2 months up until the release date of Half-Life Alyx. Eh, I digress. Half-Life Alyx itself, it looks phenomenal. And the reason that I'd want to play it is because what the game introduces to us is the introduction to City 17 and the Citadel, which are two key places within the Half-Life universe, specifically Half-Life 2 and on. And it also introduces us to Alex Vance, who was kind of like a character that we like kind of got to know, but we didn't know her origins. So that's kind of like a reason story-wise. But another reason is the controls. So based on what I've been reading up on, it has similar controls to another VR title called Boneworks, which is made by a company called Stress Level Zero. So what Valve did, because they were so in love with Boneworks, and they even put it on their master list for Valve certified games, they took ideas for the controls of Boneworks and put it into Half-Life, with the physics and whatnot. So
Yeah, which I think a lot of people were wondering if Boneworks itself was somehow like involved with Valve, like if they had any sort of involvement in it, because I think it reminded a lot of people of like Half-Life and Portal and all those different games from them.
yeah, but it's like with the new physics contact, it's like you can't like stick your hand through a wall, and it's like objects you hit, you actually hit, and it's like if you were to have seen the trailer, which came out, God, not too long ago. I think like what, November-ish. So yeah, when the trailer dropped for it, it was like we saw all this going on, and it was just phenomenal what Valve had did with the game to make it look so good, especially with it being in the new Source 2 engine. It just looks absolutely astonishing.
I think one of the
And
better VR titles that I've seen, like VR's kind of got a bad rap for like looking bad, and I think that this
yeah,
and Boneworks and a couple others have kind of like proven that wrong.
yeah, and it's like this is like currently one of two games that currently runs in the Source 2 engine. The other one being Dota 2, which um just to clarify, Dota 2 did have some stuff in regards to Half-Life Alex in its source files, with like Citadel, City 17, and many things in like the sound files. And it was like it made people hunt for all of this, and it just looked it was like everything they did, it was so cool.
Yeah, and that's always like super interesting to me is like having these little Easter eggs and people having to dig for more information and stuff. It's very
Yeah,
interesting and mysterious and gets people super duper hyped. And considering the Half Life crowd that already exists, people have been waiting for a Half Life 3 forever and ever and ever. So any
for
inkling of
like
like a
13
game,
years.
right? Like any inkling of a game, like I feel like they're salivating trying to find like hints of any sort of Half Life connection and finally being able to get something. I know there was some sort of like backlash with the fact that
It
in
was a
order to play
prequel and
this
not a sequel,
game, you're gonna
and
have
it's
to
also
get
a VR
VR.
game.
Yeah, like it's it's a
I mean,
VR
at
game.
least
You have to at
I mean,
least spend maybe I think the cheapest headset that at least I
it's
can
like $200.
think of is yeah around $200. So thinking like $200 plus the $60 price point of the game, it's a
Plus, it's
hefty
like
price to
a
pay.
$1,500 gaming rig.
Yeah, and that's on top of the fact that you have to already have had a really good like gaming
PC.
PC or something. I don't know what the
Like,
original Half-Lives were like back in their heyday if you had to have like a badass gaming rig for something like that,
oh my
but
god, no, you had to have something that just ran it.
yeah, like I don't think it was like
It's
near
like,
as
hold on.
intensive as like maybe
Um,
some others around that
I
time,
could
but I
actually
don't
pull up the
know.
specs for Half-Life 1 right now.
Right now,
Um,
for sure, like you could pop into those games no sweat, probably on like a freaking laptop or something. But yeah,
yeah.
it's like
Let's
being able to
see.
play this is going to require a lot from people, and I think that was mostly the backlash that I had seen from it was the fact that oh, we've been waiting for 13 years, and now you're asking me to spend upwards of like 200 to $1,000 to be able to play this. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's that
Here's
that
the
would tick me off as a fan. I think.
here's the recommended specs for freaking Windows. A zero point 0.8 gigahertz processor, 128 megabytes of RAM, 32 megabyte video card, Windows XP, mouse, keyboard, and internet connection.
Yeah, which I mean, I don't know how that translates to like back when it first came out, but I don't think it was like
I
groundbreaking
mean, it had
graphics
a
or
96
anything.
Metacritic, so
Were they on console or was it just PC?
they did
Yes,
come out.
they were.
Okay, because I know Portal
They
was.
released with the Orange Box. The Orange Box released on PS3, I believe.
It released on PS3 and Xbox 360, but it only had Half-Life 2 episodes 1 and 2. Those are 3 games. Portal 1 and then Team Fortress 2.
Gotcha. So I guess like there are people who might have been fans who are also like console people as well,
Yeah.
who may not actually have a PC, like lying around anywhere. It
Xbox
like
Series X PS5 reveal.
yeah, right, exactly. Like it's kind of it also makes me wonder like are they going to be able to like placate their
Mouse and
console
keyboard
fans?
support?
Cuz if not, that's a decent chunk of people who may have played those original games on console that won't be able to play this.
Yeah.
I
It's
can
basically
understand why that
that.
would be frustrating. I think like, if they released a Portal in the same way or a Left 4 Dead series in the same way, like I would also be similarly pissed. I am grateful to be able to have things like a badass rig and VR headsets and stuff like that, but I feel for the people who don't. Because if you
Yeah.
were fans of these sort of series, Valve has been pushing for VR for a long time, and now they're making their own headsets and stuff. They're
Yeah,
like
they
$1,000 and stuff like that, and it's just like I get it. VR is great, but it's just not within people's price points, especially if it's not like a PlayStation VR title and things like that. Something that might be more realistically like able to be like purchased and stuff like that. Especially considering
But Xbox, though.
I mean, and Xbox hasn't even had like any sort of like connection to VR, which kind of surprises me considering
Connect.
Yeah.
we only had a
And the
Connect.
Switch had the card.
It's more of a
Switch had
AR
the cardboard
system,
box.
but then they kind of ditched that idea like that. It doesn't
Yeah,
have
it got
anything
ditched
like
when
that.
the Xbox One S came out.
And it's just like, so if you're like an Xbox person, you're really screwed, even though like they're really the PC people over there. It's just like, I don't know. Considering like the game itself as a VR player, like I'm super excited about it. I don't know. Nate keeps saying that like if he's gonna play it, he really wants to play it with like an index, and he's been batting around the idea of getting one when they come out, if they ever freaking make any more. But
I mean, they do have a notify me on there
yeah,
right now.
get notified months later. But yeah, it's like either way though, even if you don't, like we have a decent rig, so it's like, we could still play it pretty well. Maybe not the way it was like meant to be played, but still pretty well. But at the same time, it's like it's really exciting as like a VR person because people have been waiting for like the
Oh God, no.
what?
$1,600 on Amazon for the full kit.
Oh yeah, no, like third-party sellers are like eating this shit up because they know you can't get it anywhere else. It's kind of sickening, but the same thing has been happening with like the Quest for a while too. Like around Christmas time, it was hard as fuck to get one anywhere.
Bad to find.
Huh?
I mean, I said the Quest isn't all that bad. Now thinking back to you, I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, wait.
Around Christmas time, it was a nightmare. I don't know why everyone decided everyone wanted a Quest, but same thing happened with the Index too. It was like all of a sudden people decided, hey, I want to drop $1,000 on this thing, but because the Quest made sense to me because that's more of a beginner's like VR system where you could have it linked or unlinked and kind of stuff like that. But the Index, that's a big price tag. That's for like enthusiasts or even like, pro VR players. That's not something you just go to the store and pick up. But as like a VR person to begin with, like I'm excited because I don't feel like there's been what they call like a killer app for the system for VR just in general. Everyone always says like, all the exclusives for PlayStation and Xbox and whatever help sell all of those consoles. There's never really been something for me personally that has sold gangbanger consoles, for VR. And I think that this might sort of change that narrative. They've gotten closer and closer with things like Boneworks. Obviously, there's big hits like Beat Saber and Super Hot. But this may be the first like AAA sort of title that like makes sense to go out and get one, that's like, oh hey, VR is like a real console system now. They're gonna make like AAA experiences on this now. So I'm very excited to see more about it. It looks beautiful. It's coming right around the corner as long as it doesn't get delayed or anything, which they've said that they don't have any plans to delay it. So hopefully they're right.
Yeah.
But
seems like a finished title for the most part.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not even really like a Half-Life person either, because that was like around the time that like I really wasn't playing games like that, so I don't have any sort of history with it. But I think even so, I don't think you really need it. I think this game could still be plenty of fun regardless of whether you know anything about the Half-Life series and stuff. So that's also very interesting to me. And I hope that they can continue to keep making stuff. I know that they said that they considered making a Portal VR, but it didn't actually turn out.
Cool, but...
They said that they tried to, but the motion control, the moving around and stuff in VR made people sick. And I was like,
understandably.
Okay. I feel like there might be a way to do it if they just kept sort of messing with it. Maybe put like a vignette when you're going through portals and stuff. I don't know, something, but I think that'd be super cool. Again, you're going to run into the problem of like Portal fans are going to be pissed that they have to go out and get a VR system, but maybe someday in the future, Valve's future looks like everyone has a VR system, everyone has a computer running VR and are able to get into these titles. That's what they're hoping for. And maybe that will come to fruition. I don't know, but for me at least, that's kind of where I'm at. Where it's another console for me that I can play games on. So I'm excited to see what all they come out with.
Of course.
But yeah, Jimbo, did you have another one you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I feel like this is yeah. I think this is only going to apply to me as I feel like the only Nintendo fan here. I'm
No,
quite excited for.
Hold on. Hold on.
no, not true.
You got three
Okay,
Nintendo
good to
fans
know.
in here.
Bite your tongue.
Oh yeah. I'm quite excited for the next new Animal Crossing when it comes out.
Yeah, that's like about fourth on my list because I have never been able to actually play an Animal Crossing before, but I've heard plenty about them over the years, and I'm excited to finally get into one on the Switch. Don't really know what to expect other than like, what random people have like told me about it, but it looks really good. It sounds adorable. I'm all about like building a little house and doing all the little stuff with people. It's like, it's one of those that I'm like, okay, it'll probably be one of the few Nintendo games I pick up this year, so it's like, why not,
Yeah.
Nintendo this year, I feel like, is very light.
Their games.
It's kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on over there because all I know about is Animal Crossing, and then we've got like the
Doom
hopes.
Eternal's probably going to be going to it again.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, it is, but again, I don't even count that because I know it runs okay, but like at what cost? You gotta lower the graphics so much. It's like, come on, like at that point, you're not even seeing it.
2020.
But other than that, I mean, because this is an exclusive,
Wait,
Yeah.
hold up. There's Bayonetta 3?
No, they haven't said when that's coming out. That's the thing is we have
But
a promise for like Metroid Prime 4, we have a promise for Bayonetta
That got
3.
delayed.
Yeah, we
Now-
got No More Heroes 3, we got Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, we got Gods and Monsters, Doom Eternal.
I don't know
Deadly
what Gods and
Premonition,
Monsters
Animal-
is. I kept seeing that
don't
on like
either.
other people's lists, and I was like, I have no idea what this is. They're not doing a very good job of
I
marketing.
don't-
Bayonetta 3, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, which
We
is
don't
still
know
to be
that
announced.
either. That is so much speculation.
I mean,
We don't know
it's
anything about that.
definitely out there because it was shown off at I think last year's E3, but it wasn't like
Yeah, it was the last
Completely
thing
confirmed.
that they showed at the E3 Nintendo Direct.
I think that's still a year out at least.
there's also a
Yeah.
rumored Metroid Prime 4.
We don't
That's
know.
not a rumor.
We
I know, like I
It's
said,
not,
all
it's
this
not a rumor that
kind of rumor.
exists, but I doubt it's going to come out this year because they had to pretty much restart development. There's one studio doing it, then they stopped it and gave it back to Retro Studios to do it.
Oh, also number 11 on my list.
Actually,
Minecraft
Metroid
Dungeons is coming to Switch,
Hold on.
which I'm like, heyo,
Wait a minute. Metroid Prime 4 is up for pre-order.
bruh, everything's up for pre-order. We
Hold
don't
on.
know when the hell
but
things
the other
coming
games
out.
like
Yeah.
Bayonetta and all that, that's not up for pre-order, but apparently Metroid is.
Because they keep saying, like, I think they're shooting for this year, but that was another one that kept getting, like, handed
Yeah.
off and stuff, and I don't trust that. I don't know. I hope it does, personally, and I hope that Bayonetta comes out this year, personally, but at the same time, we haven't heard shit. I don't know. I don't know about those. I didn't put them on my list, even though normally they would be if they had a date, but they don't have a date, so I'm just not even gonna... They haven't made any plans for 2020, unlike some of these other ones.
Yeah,
The
of
ones that I
course.
have on my list that are like question marks are like Ghost of Tsushima, Godfall, and Elden Ring are all supposed to be 2020, but those could all be pushed. Like they're very low on my list just because I have no idea if they're gonna actually come out this year. But those would also be included, but they're not set in stone. So that's the thing is like Nintendo, unless those finally get release dates, they're very light this year. The two on my list that are actual like Switch titles are like Doom Eternal, Animal Crossing, and Minecraft Dungeons, and those should all be coming out this year for sure.
And only one of those is an exclusive.
And only one of those is an actual Nintendo exclusive, one that's like, a known Nintendo like title. So, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, no, Animal Crossing I'm excited for though, because like I said, that'll probably be one of the few things I actually buy for the Switch this year. Minecraft Dungeons I am excited for just because I'm not really a Minecraft person, but like this is almost like a different take on it. It's like Diabloized Minecraft, which sounds interesting, but I will most likely get that on PlayStation. So Animal
Yeah.
Crossing is going to be like my Switch game. Other than like the games that I have been playing nonstop, like Mario Maker obviously is just constant content. Pokemon I'm rounding the corner on. I'm almost done with that. It's just kind of like what else is there for the Switch? I don't know. Other than like random indies coming out, like Ori might come to Switch. That's another one that
The
people
Switch-
were excited
The
about.
Switch is my indie game machine currently. Like
Yeah.
more than half the games I have for that are all indie games. That's how I played Cuphead.
Yeah, no, and it's a great indie machine because especially
Yeah.
since not a lot of them are multiplayer like online based, so being able to just play through like a single player like offline experience, being able to take it anywhere is like perfect. That's kind of how it was
Yeah.
for me for a little bit. There are certain things that um I would prefer to play on PC if they have like a multiplayer component or if like mouse and keyboard makes sense for it. But yeah, for the most part, that has been my indie machine. I've gotten things like Blasphemous and stuff like that on it. If I were into Ori, I never got around to playing the first one, but if I was, I'm almost 90% confident that's going to come to Switch, so that might be a good one as well. But again, not
Yeah.
exclusive or anything, just more indie stuff that people might be excited about. There's an indie game called Carrion that looks really cool. That might come out on it, but just nothing major. Doom Eternal's probably the most like major quote unquote, but not an exclusive, you know. So yeah, it's just kind of they gotta announce more for me. But Animal Crossing is like my go-to for Switch right now. Everything else is just kind of waiting in the wings. But yeah, are you a big Animal Crossing person? Did you play all the previous ones?
The only Animal Crossing game I've played was on the Wii,
Oh, okay.
but I absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I think
I played that game so much.
yeah. I that's the thing is like it's one of those games that I think you can just keep picking up and putting down and like just play over and over again to sink your time into it. Kind of reminds me of like a Stardew sort of situation where you just kind of keep building upon it and never really like stops. So yeah, that's always interesting to me. It's not going to be like, you know, super crazy excited for me this year, but like it's definitely on my list. It's getting up there. Um Tom, did you have any other games you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess number two on my list, which it'd be number two depending on if it actually does come out, because there's still not an official announcement, and given the history of the game studio, you never know. But the next upcoming Batman game, which is rumored to be titled Batman Arkham.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
my
another
God.
one that's like kind of just floating around as like a maybe this year. We really haven't
They've
seen
been
shit
actively
though.
teasing it now. They put out like the whole thing, like an incomplete. It was like a kind of some logo symbol thing or something like that with little mini symbols inside of it. And I guess they've
There's
been adding them little by little as they go along, like the little missing pieces to it.
Right.
there's been like a thing about Batman's voice actor being Roger Craig Smith.
Yeah.
But Smith also did the Origins Batman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, given that it's still a prequel regardless, I could definitely see him being it. Because Kevin Conroy, he did primarily the
The Rocksteady games,
yeah.
yeah. But it's like the whole history with the studio. You had, because I guess Rocksteady needed a little bit extra time before they could work on the third Arkham
which
game.
was
But
Arkham
Warner
Knight.
Brothers still wanted one out, and I think they were looking, because I think WB Games only publishes. I don't think they actually do any development.
Yeah.
So they were
They only
looking
publish,
to
yeah.
have.
Actually, hold on, I could go check right now.
Yeah, they started up for their own development company, WB Games Montreal, which is the one that did Arkham Origins, that is supposed to be working on this new game. So they did Arkham Origins in 2011, which wasn't necessarily the most well received because apparently it had a lot of bugs at launch, which I ended up playing it till a year later, so all that stuff was patched out. But yeah, like a lot of people weren't really necessarily too happy with it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Origins is the worst of the series," and but it had a end credit scene at the end that was teasing the formation of the Suicide Squad. And the next game WB Games Montreal was going to work on was a Suicide Squad, which was going to be a multiplayer co-op shooter.
Hmm.
And I guess halfway through development, that got canceled because I specifically read the game sucked horribly. So they're just like, stop right away and do something else. There
Yeah.
was leaks that implied they might have been working on a Superman game, but it might be Rocksteady that's working on that now. I don't know, or nobody might be working on a Superman game, but some artwork leaked out that seemed legit.
Yeah, for the Batman game, the guys that worked on it were Splash Damage, WB Montreal, WB Interactive Entertainment, and Telemetry and Imagination.
But
So yeah,
yeah,
but
you just didn't know what they were working on, and then there was talk about they were doing another Batman game, and this one was going to be a sequel to Arkham Knight, and was supposed to have Damian Wayne take over as Batman. It was going to be set
Damien,
post Arkham Knight in the
come
future,
on.
and well, yeah, there was evidence to support this and stuff. There was stuff that they tweeted out, like
That would
WB
freaking
Games Montreal. There was pictures. They showed like a whiteboard with a bunch of information on it. But yeah, there like how Viper's acting. That was pretty much the response. Like a lot of people are like, "No, we don't want Damian
I
Wayne. If
wanted
we're gonna have
Batman
a Batman in the
Beyond.
future, they wanted Terry McGinnis.
Yes.
So it seems based on response of the people because Viper's response is pretty much what they got online. That way they went back to the drawing board. So this whole Damian Wayne as Batman thing was pushed to the side, and now it's back to Bruce Wayne. And now it seems like it might, instead of being post Arkham Knight, it may be post Arkham Origins and be like a sequel to Origins.
Which is what it's becoming.
Or it might even just be just an Arkham game in terms of gameplay style, but ignored because again, like so little information has actually come out of what's happening, and it's been like the only game WB Games Montreal has put out is Arkham Origins in 2011, so it's already been like 8 years
9 years.
plus. Sorry, yeah, but yeah, that long. It's like for a game studio not putting anything out, and like all their projects are getting scrapped and stuff. So we don't know what we're gonna get, but it's one of the rumors is that it's going to be a multiplayer game like the Arkham style, but you would have multiplayer and play as the whole Bat family. So you'd have Batman, Robin, Nightwing, Red Hood. I think Catwoman would be included. Batgirl.
Yeah, but okay. Now, you say that. Is it okay if I backtrack a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's a good idea, but given like you were gonna say with Suicide Squad how that was gonna be multiplayer, but it was eventually canned. I feel as if they shouldn't do that only because of the fact that they don't want to probably have another repeat of it. But it's like I love the idea of the Bat family and whatnot, but it's like if we're following the idea of the Court of Owls, we should probably stick to the source material we have because the comic itself was amazing. Not gonna lie, I've looked into it, and it's like basically what the Court of Owls is the Gotham Illuminati. So with that, it's like there's so much with it that can be taken with it, and I feel as if a single player game would have to trump a multiplayer over it.
Well, it's possible because again, I was only giving like this whole backstory and stuff is just like context of why I said if the game comes out because with WB Games Montreal history,
Yeah,
we don't know exactly what we're getting, when it's coming, if it will come. For all we
yeah,
know, this could still get canceled. But I mean, when they did Arkham Origins, you had the base game, but then they tried like a little online multiplayer thing. So it's possible that if they do have this multiplayer co-op, that could be like a separate mode. and you still have like a base traditional Arkham story.
Which always goes well, having a single player thing and then having this like shunted to the side multiplayer thing. Um, yeah, no, I've seen some of the like images and stuff coming out for that. I just wonder. I feel like it's leading up to like a reveal of like a trailer or something, but at the same time, I don't think it's gonna come out this year though. I think they're gonna give themselves a little bit of time to piece together some trailers and get some hype going, and maybe release it like next year.
I mean,
That's kind of my
based on
feeling.
like information that's come out from when like Suicide Squad was canceled and they switched to this kind of thing, it's been at least 5 years. So, I mean,
If they know what they're doing, it kind of sounds like they're just batting around a lot of ideas up until hopefully they
yeah,
chose
they've got
something.
a fairly large team too, and they just seem to be not necessarily getting their shit together, as so to speak.
Mm, right. Because yeah, it's a big property and there's a lot of different ways to do it, but at the same time, it's like I mean, there's been a lot of Arkham games. It's like maybe they should just like start over or something. Like at a certain point, it's just kind of like
Well,
there's been a lot of
they've
ups
been
and
kind of doing that.
downs.
But yeah, it's like the only thing that's actually remained consistent between all the rumors and the leaks and anything that the studios actually posted themselves is just the involvement of the Court of Owls. So that's like the only
Right.
thing that we pretty much just know is going to be still in the game. From when it
Right.
was a Damian Wayne game to whatever we're going to be getting now, that's like the one thing that's remained constant.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. There's a possibility. I just kind of feel like with the title like that, it's much anticipated and whatnot. I feel like they almost want to do it right and not just like like kick it out the door and be like, oh yeah, it's coming in like fall. You barely heard
But
about it, but it's coming in fall or something. I don't know.
I would think with the current teasers they're doing, talking again about all that symbol stuff that they've been doing, that to me seems not like a friendly, playful tease, like when you leak out some artwork or like a picture of some stuff the dev's working on or a screenshot. This seems more like targeted marketing campaign teasing, which
Could
leads me to believe that whatever the announcement, even if it isn't coming out this year, that at least an announcement's coming up. And
yeah, no, I definitely expect an announcement this year for sure.
so
Especially
even if they made an
because
announcement later this year that it's still going to come out like another 2 years from now, that
oh
at
god,
least that's anticipated is probably the best we're going to get from them, maybe.
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. I hope it's not
from
that far.
from the first teaser that they gave, it was only a day after the Batman 80th anniversary, and
Right.
that was September 23rd, 2019. So that was when they first teased it, and like I said, it was after the 80th anniversary.
And then they kind of piecemealed into like a bunch of different other things up until like the full medallion looking thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I there's a chance. I just kind of like I don't know. I feel like we would have heard
Wait a minute.
more had it been an actual like 2020 release at this point, just coming from like that studio and whatnot. But I could be wrong. I just like I hope they know what they're doing because I know people have been waiting for a
Well,
game like this for a while. I just hope
it's
that they
still
figured it
early in
out.
the year. They could like sometime in February, they could make
Yeah.
an announcement or March or something like that, and it could be sometime around November, like the very tail end of the year for the Christmas.
I'm just
Yeah.
so used to these like 2 year announcements at this point. Like, like things like Cyberpunk and things like that. I feel like we've been hearing about for the longest time. Ghost of Tsushima, like Last of Us, we've been hearing about them for like years, and then it finally comes out. But there's a chance that it could just come out with like an announcement in February, come in fall. I don't think that would be too crazy. I'm just like from these big companies, I'm just so used to them really pushing it out. Like freaking Elder Scrolls put out a thing, and they were like, yeah, no date, just like maybe in the next decade. But it's
Yeah,
just
but
kind of
again,
like,
again,
damn, and I hate
I go
it.
back to again. Sorry, but I was saying, go back again. Look to the studio's history that like they've only published the one official game, and like they've had
Mhm.
stuff that's failed on them that hasn't worked out, and according to reports, and there's evidence I said to support this that they basically had to retool the entire game. Like some elements are being salvaged, but maybe about like half of it had to be repurposed or something new.
Right.
So that could be another reason. Like if they're not doing like the whole, hey, this game's coming a year from now or 2 years from now. because they've already had to change plans numerous times. They probably are maybe as unsure of themselves as the players are, the audience.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so I'm hoping that they take their time, figure it out, whatever it is that they're trying to make, and don't just like shoo it out the door and be like, okay, here's the Batman game that you've been hoping for. It's just like, no, like make it right. Like especially because I think what was it, the last one had kind of like hiccups and whatnot, like you said with the bugs and stuff. I think
Oh yeah,
they
Arkham
need to
Knight
do
had
this
some
right.
bugs.
They need to come back because that used to be like a beloved franchise for many people, and then it kind of started going down the toilet. So they
But
need to bring it back.
while it's looked down upon, Arkham Origins is actually my favorite out of the whole series because I do like the story, and the boss battles is like the best boss battles out of any of the Arkham games. Especially Knight really dropped the ball on the boss battles and stuff. But
Yeah.
so again, as long as these guys can get their shit together, then I'm really excited for what they're coming out, and hopefully it is coming out this year because
Mm,
the wait has been way too long. They got to do something as a studio, otherwise, what's their point? They're just wasting money.
right. Yeah,
Like
for sure.
9 years and nothing to show for it.
Right. Yeah, that's gotta hurt. For sure. Um, let's see. So the only other big one I feel like we haven't really touched upon is Marvel's Avengers. That's probably my third on my list of most anticipated. Got pushed back
Yeah,
to September. Super excited about it. A lot of people have kind of like planted seeds of doubt in my mind about it just from like, oh, like people don't like the look of it and people think it's gonna be weird and like blah blah blah. But I don't know. As soon as I heard that anything like that was coming out, I was like, oh hell yeah, because I have
uh,
only ever played Marvel games, except for like something like Spider-Man. The only Marvel games I've ever really played have been sort of like arcadey whatever games or fighting games or whatever else, like actually having like a story based like Avengers game separate from the movies, mind you, like not some like movie like spin-off
Movie
whatever
tie-in
bullshit
game.
like they used to do, a real Avengers game that's in its own right, like its own sort of like um universe. I'm super excited for it. I don't know exactly like how it's all gonna work. I don't think it's gonna be like pick your character and then play through the campaign. Like I think it's really gonna be more of like a story base. Like you're gonna play the character that makes sense for the storyline or whatever and
yeah. I
how it's
think it's going to
going.
be like almost MMO, excited without not making your own original character.
It kind of sounded like a drop in, drop out system, like a co op thing where you're playing the set story or whatever, but like probably picking from characters that would make sense for the scene or whatever. Like you're not gonna have like I don't think they're gonna do a thing like Ultimate Alliance was where like if I feel like playing Deadpool right now, I'm gonna play Deadpool right now. Like I think it's gonna be like oh no, there's Cap and Widow and Hulk and Thor here and you get to pick one.
Oh, we're talking about
Almost like Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, like a right, something that like makes sense in the whatever scene you're playing in or whatever. But um, I hope that I hope that we do get like a good depth of like story and not just like some muddled like semi film story that we've already sort of seen before. Like I'm hoping I'm not even really entirely sure like do we know who like the villains are or the actual like plot?
one of them.
What?
I
Sorry, I didn't
said
hear.
Taskmaster is one of the villains for the upcoming Avengers.
Is he? Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be like a Thanos situation. I kind of hope that they get away from Thanos, personally, just because I feel like we've done it with
No,
with Ultimate Alliance, with the films, with pretty much everything right now.
Yeah.
he was in Guardians of the Galaxy, the Telltale series.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just like he kind of just keeps like he's like the ultimate
Uh,
villain for
Capcom.
everything right now, and it's like there's so many that you can pick from at this point. It's like, give me some more. I also wonder how many characters are actually going to be included in this. Is it going to be like the main 5 or 6, or are we going to get into like Spider-Man, Wolverine, that kind of thing? Like, are we going to really broaden this
I'm
out?
pretty sure Spider-Man's going to be off limits because of
Probably.
the Sony, yeah, I bet you,
Yeah.
yeah,
Probably, which
like
I
just
can
like a
dream.
non-compete thing or
But
whatever with Sony having
if I'm
the what exclusive Spider.
if I'm correct, they're probably gonna have it all in the same universe, but just owned separately.
That'd be
'Cause
nice. I mean,
like,
they did have you sort of like running around in New York in the Spider-Man game, and you could see like
yeah,
the iconic places like the Avengers Tower and stuff like that.
oh yeah,
So I wonder if they're gonna make a similar nod to that, like, oh
yeah,
yeah, like Spider-Man's been running around doing
and it's
whatever
like
he's been doing, you know?
Yeah,
it's like
Spidey's in
Yuri
New York,
Lowenthal's
and based on
Spidey
the
is like
trailers, this is going to be in the.
Which Taskmaster was like technically in the Spider-Man game too. So
Mhm.
like I wonder if there's going to be a connection there or like what how that's going to play
Nah,
out cuz I mean these are
but it,
different like studios. So I don't know how much they're really going to be like connecting those necessarily, but maybe there'll be a nod. I'm not sure. I guess it depends on what they allow them to do.
I mean, based on what it looks um, like what's going on in my head, what I'm thinking about it is that with Avengers and Spider-Man, Taskmaster does bring up in the Spider-Man game. I have faced the Avengers before, and I have defeated them. So does that mean Spider-Man takes place after the current Avengers game?
Oh gosh. I don't know.
Yep.
He's just
Thank
like,
you.
"Yep."
Sorry.
Maybe,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, that would be cool.
Yeah, I get it's kind of like out of order, I feel like, but I mean, maybe that might be
It's
interesting.
one big happy family of gaming.
God, how cool would it be though if like Spider-Man made a little cameo though with
Yeah, we have the Marvel
Yuri.
Cinematic Universe. Why not
And have
the
Yuri come back
Marvel
and voice
Gaming
it.
Universe?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, why not? If you really are gonna like pretend that
MG.
Taskmaster already beat the Avengers or whatever, like have Yuri pop up or something and like make it a whole thing. Like that'd be amazing. I know that this isn't a PlayStation exclusive, so it's like I don't know how
I mean,
much they're gonna have like control over stuff like that, but I don't know. It'd be interesting.
I mean, not only the base characters, we're also going to be getting a first look at a story-based Kamala Khan or the new Miss Marvel. So
That's what I was going to say. That I read that the reason I said that it's going to be kind of maybe MMO like
there you
was
go.
I read, which is not confirmed by the studio, but I read that there was supposed to be multiple, if not like always continuous, story updates, so that you'd have like the
Ooh.
base story we get with the game, which appears to be 5 Avengers, at least based on the trailer. Like basically everybody but Hawkeye, poor guy gets left out in the cold. But that they would have more updates to the story that would bring in different Avengers. So I don't know, maybe it'd be something like the Telltale series where you'd have like episodes. I don't know, or
Mm-hmm.
Rip the Hawkeye TV series, by the way.
Rip.
if it's gonna be like what we get for the base game might be short, but then you're gonna have like episodes like the Telltale stuff, and you'll have multiple shorter stories, or if it'll be a long one, and you just instead of like putting out an Avengers 2 a couple years from now, if we'd get just like a DLC story added on, I have no idea how that would work.
That would be interesting because that would
I
kind of
mean,
keep you in the same game without like having you
yeah.
like a call out or Call of Duty like sort of system where you have to keep buying the next one and the next one and the next one. You just kind of keep adding on. That would be interesting because it kind of sounds like it's morphing somewhere between like Ultimate Alliance and like an actual story based thing. I don't know how that's gonna work exactly. I don't think you're gonna be able to just like pick any character to play or whatever. Like I still
I mean,
think it's gonna be like a set character
yeah.
list, but the episodic idea makes sense to me. I guess it just depends on like how that fits with their entire like plot line. Like I said, whoever the villain is, like how that's gonna work because obviously in one episode you're not gonna want to introduce someone like Thanos and then defeat them in the same episode. Like it's
And
probably
then
gonna
Final
have to
Act.
be more of a piece by piece thing, kind of like how Ultimate Alliance was, where you kind of had like bits and pieces here and there to hop into with friends or whatever, but it still
Yeah.
led up to the final battle or whatever. So that would be interesting though. Especially if they do decide to sort of keep adding content to it. I am all for that because I'm always against like having to buy like the sequel and the sequel and the sequel over and over again, $60 each time. It's like just being able to keep the one game and keep adding on to it. It sounds fantastic to me. And if there is some sort of crazy mode, if it is episodic in that way, where instead of like the story, the straight story, you did play some sort of like after you've beaten it. It's kind of like in those the Star Wars Lego games, how that used to be, where like you could play the story with the actual story characters, but then you could like go back after you beat it and play it with anybody. So you could like totally go in with like Deadpool and go kill some things or whatever. That's a little extreme to me, but at the same time, I don't know. It could totally be like that. I think I'd be okay with either way. But the vibe I was getting from it was going to be more like, no, you've got the set story and the set people, but you can play with friends kind of thing. Or by yourself.
Based on what I'm seeing...
Sorry, you go.
Based on what I'm seeing for the game, the mechanic on how they're doing the characters is kind of like a Destiny based, where it's all gear upgrading type of game.
For like each character or whatever.
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm hearing.
Favorite.
I don't know how valid it is, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing for it.
Which makes sense. Like it's kind of like, you know, you pick the character that you really kind of jive with. You kind of upgrade them over other ones. Again, very like Ultimate Alliance style. Like that's pretty much how that worked as well.
It's like,
but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've really seen like a whole lot about it, even though it's coming out. Well, I guess it was pushed, so it's really more like September. So I guess we still have plenty of time to see more about it. But
oh, that was pushed too?
I don't know if it was. I think it was pushed like a while ago. I think people thought it was going to come earlier, and then they were like, "No, it's coming later." But not like a. I don't think that happened. When they put out the
trailer, it was originally May, wasn't it? Sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it was in May. Yeah, it's still May.
And 15th. I thought it was going to come around my birthday, and then it didn't. But yeah,
it's still being released May 15th. It's never mind. It's now. September 4th now. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
Everything's coming out in September now.
I know. Yep. Well, that's the problem too. Is like March is being dominated by Doom Eternal, Animal Crossing, Resident Evil 3 in April, and then you got like Cyberpunk, Marvel's Avengers, and probably another Call of Duty and stuff like that in September. Like, yeah, it's the two halves of the year are just, as always, very packed. And you're gonna have to make some decisions.
Elsewhere, though, the Shigeru Miyamoto, who created Mario and Legend of Zelda and stuff, like a quote of his was, "A delayed game eventually becomes good, but a rushed game is always or like bad. A bad game is always bad." So, I mean, yeah, if like, I'm not going to complain too much about any game being delayed. If it's going to make the game good, I think that's better in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. It's just one of those things, like, I am so impatient, so, and I know that about myself, so it's like, I've been waiting for these, I've been putting them on my calendar, I've been, like, totally jazzed for this, especially around my birthday. I was like, that's perfect, but no. But that's fine. Like, it's more just, like, I'm worried more about, them being in conjunction with other games. Like I said, like, something as big as Cyberpunk, the way that people have hyped it up, and then the fact that Avengers is huge, but people have been kind of like bashing this game for what it is, because I don't think we really even know what it is, but like what we've seen of it, I think people have kind of been like slightly negative on it, which surprised me. It worries me that it's going to get overshadowed. That's my only concern, is like the game that probably deserves a lot better than it's going to get. Kind of like when Resident Evil came out last year, I believe. It came out very early in the year, and that was probably the best thing it could have done, because for one thing, it's like a remake, and fans were going to be jazzed about it, but people who have never really played that before, like me, wasn't like the top of their list of like most anticipated. But the fact that it came out so early in the year, I actually ended up getting it just to have something to play through, and I actually really liked it. And it's like, I wouldn't have given that a chance had something like Spider-Man come out at the same time. That's a bad example because I didn't come out the same year, but still. Just like, you know, something overshadowing it that like other people might enjoy more. So that's my only concern with it. I thought May was kind of perfect because it was like middling of the year, like kind of reaching into like summertime, so people can kind of, you know, play through it during that time period. But at the same time, I'm with Tom. Like, you shouldn't be putting out games if you don't know that they're gonna be like complete or whatever. That's
Or
just gonna make a
movies,
bad game
Yeah,
Rise of
terrible
Skywalker.
one
forever.
primary example of this
Yeah.
one primary example is Assassin's Creed Unity.
Yeah, yeah. Just I mean, there's plenty of examples of that where games just really should have like waited. But and this is not necessarily one that like you could potentially come back from. Like something like Destiny that's constantly going to be getting updates and stuff is something that people can give a second chance to later. But something like this, you're going to want to play through the story and then you may never like pick it up again. And if it sucks at the very beginning, you might be screwed. You know, people might just be like, screw this, I've got plenty other things to play. You know, like I don't need to be getting through this and trying to deal with bugs and whatever else. So yeah, I'm upset but glad at the same time. But I'm really looking forward to it. I just don't really, like I said, I don't really know a whole lot about it, so I'm hoping that they're at least gonna allow some more like gameplay trailers to come out and stuff like that, and maybe get some like reviewers and things like that like able to play it and kind of give us more of an idea of what it's going to be like, and hopefully get some better word out about it, because I don't know why, but people have kind of been like bagging on it lately, and I'm just like, shit, okay, like I was excited. I don't know about y'all, but
Also, I'd like to know more about the gameplay because
yeah,
I've never actually played a Square Enix game, like in general. So, like, I'm
yeah,
willing to give it a shot. I'm excited for it. I like the idea of the multiplayer stuff, but it's just, yeah, I don't really know what to expect in terms of gameplay wise. So that's
right.
what I'd like to know more about.
I'm trying to think who like what Square is made. They made a ton of shit, but
Uh,
it's
Final Fantasy,
yeah,
Tomb Raider.
Final
the biggest
Fantasy.
thing, yeah, the Final
I think it
Fantasy.
kind of reminds me of that a little bit. At least the ones that weren't
But they
like
all
turn based or whatever.
they also did Tomb Raider as well, the remake
That's right.
from the
Oh, right, yes.
like mid 2010s.
They all kind
Which
of
I've
give
only
me that
played the
similar
first one of
feel.
the series, but I did enjoy that.
Yeah. And it's like it's interesting that you bring up the co-op stuff too, because like the trailer that I'm looking at right now is very much like you play as one character and then it gets traded off to another character and traded off to another character throughout the
Yeah,
story
the
or
gameplay
whatever.
footage they had only had one character on screen at a
Right.
time.
So I wonder if like you can choose to like invite other people in, or if this is like a completely separate mode from the co-op version, you know, like this is the main story and then the co-op's going to be more like a mission based thing or something.
Oh
So
my god.
I need to know more about it, I think. Even if it is just single player like I thought it was going to be, like at least what I'm seeing right now, where it's just like the story and you just trade off whatever the scene expects you to do. I'm still okay with that even. Like I did not even expect this to be like a co-op thing, cuz I feel like I've had plenty of chances to play Marvel co-op stuff with Ultimate Alliance and the Lego series and stuff like that. Like those have kind of always been the games that are like build your dream team of Marvel heroes and do these missions or whatever. But this one's like
I believe the co-op was supposed to be a big part of it too. So, like, I think that was the encouragement was they wanted people to play online with their friends.
yeah, which I'm totally fine with, but I'd also be fine the other way, just playing through a straight up single player series, much like, you know, how Tomb Raider and all those other ones were. Like you don't I just hope they don't like shoehorn in the co-op just cuz it's kind of like when they made Tomb Raider, they did have that multiplayer mode on the side, and it's like, okay, but really, who's playing this? People play it for the single player, and the multiplayer is always like just tacked on. I don't want it to be like that. If they're gonna do something like that, it needs to be good. You know, it needs to make sense. It needs to be fun.
At this point, I really couldn't care about the gameplay. We've got a monster cast for the freaking game.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we've got Troy Baker, Nolan North, Darren DePaul. Like, it just and it's
I think
all
the
I know,
production is gonna be great. Like,
it's in post right now, actually.
yeah, like I think that the actual like you know the sets and the acting and everything else is gonna be
Yeah.
superb. It's mostly like
Yeah,
the
it's like
gameplay stuff that I think we just have big question marks about. And I
and
think
there's
I don't know, a
one
lot of
other
people are
guy.
being unfair about like the way it looked, like with the characters or whatever. I think people are
Yeah.
expecting it to be like the films but in video game. I don't know
I
why,
mean,
because it's
Well,
not meant
also
to
when
be that.
people
Parker didn't look all
complain
that
about
bad.
like graphics and how stuff looks, it's to me you talk about a game, yeah, it's great when a game looks beautiful, but gameplay is far more important.
Mhm.
Because it doesn't matter if you have the most beautifully crafted, like visually impressive game, if the gameplay is absolute shit, you're not gonna want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't really think they look that bad. Like, obviously they look different than the films, and they're gonna do their own like take on them or whatever. But like, I
And
don't know what.
obviously, if it's getting delayed, it's not even complete yet, too.
But yeah, like with the cast, I'm gonna head back to that real quick. It's like we have Nolan North as Iron Man. I mean, you can't go wrong with freaking Nolan North in any game. Um, Troy Baker, who, if you don't know what he's most known for, like what I know him for is the Joker from Origins. He's doing Bruce Banner.
Yeah, and just Joel from Last of Us that we were talking about earlier.
Oh yeah. You got Laura Bailey, who was MJ in the Spider-Man game. You got Travis Willingham as Thor. If you don't know who he was freaking Yarrow T'Pol in Jedi Fallen Order. He was Cal's master. You got Darren DePaul, who was freaking Reinhardt being Hulk. So right there, the lineup of 5 people, that's a monster cast right there.
And with Lauren Bailey too, I believe she's like other video games and I think animation. She's also done the voice of Black Widow, so she's been like a long time. She's almost like Kevin Conroy. Actually, I think that she's been the long time voice of Black.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was in the Spider-Man TV series. She was in Marvel's Avengers, of course. She's in Last of Us Part 2, which is still in filming. Okay, that's odd if it's coming out in 2020. She was in Gears 5 as Kate. Here we go. She was in Ultimate Alliance 3 as Black Widow.
Yeah, so as I say, yeah, she's got like a long history of playing Black Widow.
Future Avengers, Black Widow. So yeah, Lego Marvel, Black Widow. So
yeah, definitely, like you said, yeah, a lot of these names are, well known in the voice acting community and very, good in terms of their body of work. So that, like, from a vocal standpoint, we're definitely going to get some good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, again, how I was saying earlier with the new Batman game, that could be my number 2 if it gets released. I would have to say, if there's going to be no Batman game at all this year, which is still it's a maybe, it's a not. You get flip a coin.
Yeah.
But if there is no Batman game, then Avengers is going to be right now my number 2 game that I'm looking forward to for 2020.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I have no idea what just happened. It just kind of pooped out. Hopefully you can hear me from my webcam right now. But I tried switching sources and stuff on my mixer and it's not working, and I'm kind of starting to wonder if something terrible is happening to my microphone right now. But either way, thank you guys for keeping that discussion going about Avengers. Sorry, I kind of just petered out there for a second. But I think we had a good discussion, though, about like all the different games and stuff. I would say we were about at the end anyway, but
I mean, can we come back a little bit later? Like, if once you get everything fixed?
Potentially. We could do like a part 2, maybe like next week or something.
Yeah, I mean,
barring any issues from my mic, apparently. I'll go ahead and end it here because I'm sure this sounds awful. But thank you guys, everybody who rated and stuff. I apologize. Don't usually run into this problem. But we'll try to pick this up maybe next week. And yeah. Thank you guys for joining us with this podcast, by the way. I enjoyed talking with you guys as always. We'll go ahead and launch off to a raid now.
Sorry everyone, Rebel's microphone got eaten by gnomes. But don't worry, we will continue our anticipated games discussion at a later date. We apologize for the abrupt end to the podcast. We'll see you next time.